Alrighty then, we should be live. I did forget to put on the copyright-free lo-fi music, so allow me to do that really quickly and ensure that... Okay. There we go. We've got the music. Alrighty. Let me just open up my chat reading device. If it would work. If it would work, that would be very, very nice. I would be on cloud 9 if it would work. There we go. Alrighty, please allow me a brief moment to share the stream, put the links where they need to go, and then we will be able to get on with the stream. Alright, that's the spiral roll. I'm going to ping my Discord server. Link to the Discord server is in the description. I'll put it in a few of the promos I don't really link to often. Definitely have to put it in this one. Yeah, we'll put it here too. We'll put it here too. Why not? Hi, hello, welcome to the stream, MYC8SIG. I'm just getting the links where they need to go. I do need to put it on Tumblr and Blue Sky, because I think that's all the Discords I would ping for a skin making stream. Allow me just a minute more. Skin artist. Serotonin Rat. Posted onto Tumblr, and now for the Blue Sky. Live. Alrighty, that is all the links I need to put it in, so we are good to get started. Hello! Hello, my rats and rodents. I'm Serotonin, also known as Corky, and welcome to another skin making stream. I've done one skin making stream in the past. I think it was about an hour long, but I only made one skin, and I have 2 skins I need to make today, so I figured, hey, why not use this for more stream content if I'm gonna be doing daily streams? So I figured, hey, this is the best way to do that. And it allows me more... It allows me to feel like I'm actually doing something with my time, as opposed to making a skin I'm not going to get to use for about a week. So I have another window open with the reference I have. It's not a one-to-one reference, it's just something I found on Pinterest in order to allow me to have a brief idea of the character design. I mean, I already have the character design in my head, but just a physical manifestation of it should be very helpful. It usually is. Having a reference isn't normally required for making a skin, but I always find it helpful. I usually do the eyes first. Why am I like this? I was going to do... Hold on, I can just do more color picking from the... No, I cannot do color picking from the reference. Alright. My favorite part of making skins, having a color you want to use, such as olive, and then looking up the hex code. Whoa, 88,000. That's wild. And then you gotta... all that fun stuff. What's up, gays? Hello, Salem. Welcome to the stream. Alrighty. My favorite hex code that I have memorized. FFD back. Because that is what I use for my skin tones. Or, well, white people. It's my hex code for skin tones when I make white people. Alrighty then. So we get into the fun part pretty early on because I was actually able to get like an exact hair color that I wanted to use. So the fun part is I do need to get that to a more usable color. Getting to design the hair on the face, like the front part of the hair. That's always one of my favorite bits to do. Usually with Minecraft skins, because it's such a limited medium, a reference is gonna help for hair, but it's not really gonna do most of the work for you. I don't know if that looks right. No, because it's kind of tucked behind the ear on the reference I'm using, so not too sure about it. Yeah, that's not gonna work. I am, in fact, a nerd. That is a very astute observation. Again, it's not fitting. That's nice, although I think I've done literally this exact same shape before. It's fine. It's passable. Alrighty then, so we can... Okay, then how about this? We keep that, but then we grab a darker shade for that. Yeah, there we go. There we go. See, that's popping out. That's looking nice. Alrighty then. Alright. So now on to the fun bit. You grab the bright color. Or, oh, well, I guess I do need to do the wraparound. Because the skin is never gonna look right if you don't do the wraparound. The hair just, like, if it just, like, cuts in, it's never gonna look like it's supposed to be there. It gives it more of a fuller effect. A more full effect. I'm gonna add an extra bit right there just to hide the eyebrows. Yeah, and that still looks good. It also helps that sometimes you get a nice little swatch. So, my standard hair design, I am going to need to get off of that. It's not going to be overly long hair, so... yeah. There we are, that's how it's done. And then you get to go and grab your little brighter color. And you get to do the outline. Nerd, okay. What is with calling me a nerd? What is the purpose of this? Like, is this really all we can come up with today? Just calling me a nerd? I mean, I thought my fan base would be a little bit more creative. Alright. Yeah, there we go, there we go. And then we do the little bit, you gotta make sure to do it on every side. Otherwise, it's just gonna be pretty obvious that you forgot. Here we are. Alright. And then a nice little tip, if you want the hair to look a little fuller, you do an extra bit of shading. An extra bit of light on the hair. It just makes it look a little bit more complete. And now, of course, we have to be aware to add the little dark spots. There's logic behind the placement of these, but I feel like it's pretty obvious how I'm going about it. I don't think I really need to explain why I'm putting them where I'm putting them. Alrighty. Skin making stream goes hard. It does. It does. It's really just doing something I would already be doing, but streaming it so that way I can fulfill my daily streaming quota. Quota? Lethal Company? Oh my god. Anyways. And then there's more to the shading. Well, not the shading, but the doing the outer layer. Time life reference. Yeah, I guess. So when you're doing hair, you do want to make sure to have it feel full. You need to add the second layer to the bright parts. Make sure that if you do this little shine effect, the extra little shine, you need to be sure to add this in the correct color. And then you do the outline right here. Make sure not to touch this outer bit, because this outer bit is for the wraparound for the bangs. But as long as you don't touch that, you're golden. Also, make sure not to touch the top, because otherwise it's gonna look incorrect. You can, however, touch the bottom. Especially if you're doing a skin with longer hair, it's actually recommended that you touch the bottom. That way it looks more like it's flowing down, so to speak. Okay, we're gonna try something because I don't much care for how that looks. I preferred it beforehand. It still doesn't look great. How can I fix this? There we go. All right. Little wrap around. I like that significantly better. And there we are. Of course, you need to remember to do the top. Everybody has a different way they do the top of the head. But my way is pretty simple. Kind of just 2 lines and then you do the outline. Of course, then there is the optional, again, optional, this bit. Some people like it, some people don't. Really, it depends on the skin. But usually, from the top down, it makes it look a little more full. And this makes it also look a little bit more full. So I think it does work out on this skin. It doesn't work on every skin. So be aware of that. But when it does work out, it's always nice. Now, this is going to be a skin with longer hair. So what we're going to need to do is allow the hair to go down. You see how that makes it look like it flows down a little bit more? It's going to be wonderful. So I think that's the face done. Were there any other aspects I wanted to add to the face? Hmm. Maybe. No, I can't really think of anything else to add to the face, but it does just look a little plain, doesn't it? Hmm. Maybe a little hair accessory. No, that wouldn't really fit. Well, you win some, you lose some. Hold on, let me... There we go, that looks a little better. Look at that. And now for the difficult bit. Oh, actually, we should probably... Before moving on, we should add to these sides. That way we can put a little bit of hair at the side and have it not look horrible. That usually makes it look a little bit more realistic. And by realistic, I mean it just gives the hair better flow. Now, what we're going to be doing with the chest, the outfit. I'm so glad to be able to do this. So, notice how it's not the same color as the eyes, but it is a similar color. This makes it so that way the eyes look a little bit more natural, but the clothes can look a little more man-made. Hold on. Let me look at the reference again. Okay, I see what we're going with here. I see the angle. This is very nice to watch after watching Team Tide all morning. That's fair. Let me get the color picked. Alrighty. And then the color for la pantalones. El pantalones? I don't know. I haven't taken Spanish since I graduated. So what we do here, we add a little bit of shade. A little bit of shade right there. It gives a bit of depth. There's this very important thing we're doing with this, because this is the shirt, this is the vest. And the great thing we can do here is we can add buttons. Button up your vest, you whore. And a little thing I like to do is make the corners of the vest peek out over the pants. It makes it gives it a little bit more depth. It gives it a little bit more life, you know? Breathe some life into your skins. However, there is a certain thing we also have to do. We get to 46, which, as you notice, is much less shaded than that little outline. Put it on the top, put it on the bottom. Let this bit have some of the light, even if it doesn't make full sense. And you can keep this even on the jacket. It's going to make it look a little bit more full. See that little lighting effect? It's wonderful, isn't it? I do this on nearly all of my skins that I have too many layers on. Because if you can't impress something with the layers, then you need to go into something like the lighting. And of course, the pants. You see how they're just close enough to where you can tell they're definitely meant to be together, but they still have their own personality. Look at that. Such a dapper fellow. This feels like Bob Ross, but for Minecraft skins. I mean, that is generally when I'm making skins, that's the kind of energy I'm trying to go for. So that is high praise. Alright. Generally, you don't want to shade the torso before you make the arms, because the arms and the torso, they're gonna have to get along. You're gonna have to make sure that you did it right. You're gonna have to make sure that they're nice and together. I like to carry over the lighting, although that isn't generally needed. Oh, I'll tell you what I will do. I need to take the skin and at least put it on the bottom. That way. Okay, we're gonna need this to go down one more. And there we are. Now, there's this little trick that I like to do to make it feel like it has a little bit more depth than it does. On this side of the arms, you generally, you want to put a little line of excuse me. Generally, on this side of the arms, you want to put a little bit of shading. Not too much. Make sure it's not too deep. But just enough so that it makes sense. And sometimes you want to have that carry over onto the torso. So you have a little bit more depth than you did previously. See how that looks so much fuller even without layers? It's wonderful. Another part you need to never forget to do is the insides of all your bits. The most commonly forgotten part to color in is the top of the legs, which honestly, there are a few skins of mine that I have forgotten to do that with. And quite frankly, there's one skin that I made recently that I'm a little bit worried that I didn't do that with. And now I've worried myself into a pickle. So I'm going to check that real quick. Not on screen, obviously, but I did not, in fact, forget to do the top of the legs. That's wonderful. But here we are, on the arms, making sure it's nice and shaded, making sure it's nice and colored. Generally, on the insides of something, I've found it best to go full. You don't need to overcomplicate it. It gives it a much more cartoony, Minecraft-esque style, if you can even call it that. Some people like to shade with way too many colors. They like to, oh, make it look as realistic as possible. That's not how I do my skins. My skins are very stylized, they're very fitting for such a simplistic graphical style. And I like how I do things. I like how I make my skins. I like how they look. After all, I was taught by the best. Well, taught is a bit of an overstatement. More, I learned to make skins by watching a certain skin-making streamer, Giovanka. I miss when Giovanka streamed. That's where I learned most of the techniques I use. That's where I learned about this software. I mean, I'm pretty sure Giovanka's switched over to Blockbench, like a lot of other people have nowadays, but I like PMC Skin 3D. It's what I'm used to, it works great, and I don't really need any of the custom model stuff that you can do with Blockbench, because I don't really go into that stuff. All I do is make my little skins, and that's enough for me. Because I haven't really had a purpose for making custom models. Maybe one day, when I do, I'll try to learn how to use Blockbench, but again, as of right now, it's really not needed. I don't need it at all. Look at that. Isn't that nice? I like it. Oh, I need to do the top of the arm. Almost forgot about that part. Look at that. We are going to need to do this shading bit on the back. It's very important that we do, because if we don't, then we're going to be running into some problems. It's better to do things when you notice that you need to do them instead of waiting. I have that kind of problem all the time. It's just part of the ADHD. You realize you need to do something, but you say, I'll do it later. You start to procrastinate. And generally, I do engage in procrastination fairly often in my day-to-day life. But I manage to keep it under control. Because what I do is, well, just deal with the consequences. But when you're making skins, oh no, no, no. You can't be dealing with any of that. Wow. Look at that. It's all coming together. And now we get to one of the fun parts. The layering. Now, there's this very important thing that you need to do when layering. Especially with buttons. You need to make sure that there's a little bit of shading by having the top bit be brighter than the bottom bit. Usually when I'm making my lightness, I like to use the rule of 4%. That's generally enough to have it be a noticeable change, but not have it be so drastic that it looks sloppy. Really, it's quite wonderful. Another thing I like to do, especially with my coats, is at the bottom here. Generally, it'll be right under this brightness line. You just copy it over. You just put it on to the top layer, and it'll look nice. It'll look like the coat is pushing out, sort of. It gives it more depth, as all coats have. As all coats should have. Would you look at that? Oh, and here we have something fun. You need to make sure to do that bottom bit. Make sure to keep the front consistent, make sure to keep the back consistent, and the sides are usually gonna work out. Sometimes you'll have to put a little bit of extra work into it if you're going for a more complicated clothing design, but with what we're doing here, it's just sort of fancy pants. Look at that. It already looks a little fuller, doesn't it? But I'll tell you what we can do. We can focus on the arms. Give little cuffs. This will generally look nice if you're going for a fancier sort of design, which is very much so the goal here. This is a noble. Would you look at that? I actually don't like how that's turned out. That's fine. Trial and error is most of what skin making is. Oh, have I forgotten to do this side? I've not. You know how we can still make it look a little fuller, even if our original plan didn't work out for this particular skin? We can let the sleeves poke out a bit. We need to make sure it still looks nice and put together. This is a noble after all. We can't get all raggedy. But what we can do is give them a little air. I also sometimes like to add a little extra bit. Make sure it doesn't look skin tight. If you do too many layers of this, then it'll just make the character look muscular, which sometimes is what you want, but that's not what we're going for this character. They're sleek, they're slender. They don't really do the hard work. They're a noble after all. And isn't that nice? But I'll tell you what we do need to do. We need to give them a nice little hairdo. Actually, I have an idea. One that allows us to erase this bit as it's no longer needed. So what we do here instead is we let it pool together. You can take one of the shades here. Let's go for the darkest shade. A little colored hair tie. No. Generally, with hair on the back, it's a lot of trial and error. Trying to get it to a point where it looks nice. It's gonna be quite difficult. Hmm. No. There we go. Oh, but I'll tell you what we do need to do. Give it some better shading. Actually, I don't really like that. There we are. There we are. That's nice, isn't it? Now, what we need to do here, give the hair tie some shading. There we are. That's how it goes. And you don't really need to put too much on the outside of this. It's not usually needed. But it can help make it feel a little bit more full. At least if you do the bottom, maybe the top. And definitely make it so that way the hair tie is on both layers. And generally it'll help it flow a little better. If you put these on the outside as well. You do need to remember to put these on the top of the torso too. That way when you turn your head, it doesn't look strange. Now, would you look at that? Very nice, isn't it? I'm very proud of this hair, honestly. I've only recently stepped more into the forte of putting hair on the back. Usually I make shorter haired characters. So, this is quite nice in my opinion. Wow. I am really proud of that. It's nice to make something you can feel proud of. Wow. Now, here we get to one of the stranger parts of skin making. The legs are always a bit odd. There's not a whole lot you can do with them. You sort of need to stick to pretty common ways to do things. That's much too dark. Generally, when you're making pants, you can go longer than they will actually end up being. As long as you don't get too far into the shading process. Wow. Oh, hello, just a carrot. Welcome. Where'd I mess up? Yeah, there we are. There's this thing I like to do when I'm making coats. I like to do a sort of ducktail design. I think they always look rather classy. Now... And then we go and we fill in the bits. Now, of course, the pants aren't going to go on for this long because we, of course, need to make shoes. But overall, this is how it's gonna look. Wow. Would you look at that? Hmm. There we are. Quite nice, isn't it? Can't forget to do the top of the legs. When you forget to do the top of the legs, it doesn't ever work out. Wow, isn't that nice? Hmm. Well, it's not completely nice. There are a few things. I am really hung up on how the coat looks. There we go. That fixes it, sorta. Oh, what we can do. Make it just a smidge brighter. And there we are. Now what we get to do is give it its second layer. I do apologize for all the silence. There's just not much to talk about at this stage of making skins. Wow. Isn't that neat? Well, I think it looks a little off. I've run into this problem before, and the way to fix it is rather simple. You just get rid of the top layer of the legs. See? No, that didn't work. That did not work at all. So what I think we can do here is get rid of the bottom layer of the torso. Make it look like it tapers in, and then... No, that doesn't work at all. Low-key zoned out for like 15 minutes just staring at my ceiling. That's crazy. Well... Oh, here's an idea. Add a bit of lighting. Now it looks a little better, I think. Now. Shoes are always difficult. Hmm. Alright, that's a more fitting shade. Alright. All right. And with that, we have a finished skin. Look at them. Isn't that nice? Now, saving the file. Named the file. And now, with Albert Alami finished, we can move on to the one I have been dreading. Sevret Mao. Now, the reason I've been dreading Sevret Mao is because I don't have a good base for them. I have absolutely no idea how Sevret Mao is going to look. So, we are going to have a very rough time with this. Now, Sevret Mao is going to have a bit more of a tan than the others, I think. No, it just doesn't look right. Hmm. Now, I'm not sure about giving Sevret black hair. Black hair is really difficult to do right. Let's see, we have one blondie, we have one redhead. So I guess brown hair would work. Hmm. Let's see here. Now we have the very difficult step of the hair design. Hmm. Now that's okay. I actually kind of like it. And then we can do a little brightness. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Nice little bit of hair shading. And we will, of course, do the little shines. Hmm. And then, of course, you need to do the second layer. I do just sort of just get a little quiet when I'm making skins. It's a bit of a bad habit, especially when I'm streaming, but not much I can do about it other than get better. Wow. Now, when you don't have a reference for a face, it's always a little bit difficult. But when you have absolutely no clue what someone should wear, that is when skin making becomes nigh impossible. It's like the most important part of a skin, what outfit they're going to be wearing. And when you're going without really any clue, that can be dangerous. So, ooh, I actually kind of like that. I found a nice reference pretty quickly. Oh, I really like that. All right. Now, I'll tell you what we're gonna do here. We're gonna make an amazing rogue. Okay, we're gonna need to design this with the arms in mind. Okay, I thought I had an idea of how to do this and where to go with it, but that's sort of I don't know how long my microphone was disconnected. That's a shame. I just did my entire outro. That sucks. That sucks majorly. I really need to get a new microphone cord. Actually, it's not even my microphone cord, it's my microphone itself. I need to get a new one. But whatever. Thank you all for attending, as long as you have. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out the algorithm and helps everything I do get shown to more people who'd enjoy what I do. But without much further ado, fare thee well, my rats and rodents. Goodbye.